Hello and welcome everybody to the Bye Round 2024 Grand Final Review Show. James Graham, your host, joined by Brandon Smith as always, and special guest in Gorden Tallis.
It's good to be here.
It is great to have you in.
This is the best Mad Monday I've ever had.
Well, you're with some people that I reckon cheese would be good on Mad Monday.
Yeah, I
reckon you'd be good on Mad Monday.
You just got to stay away from blokes like him. Because they can drag you down.
I'm retired now.
You down.
Well, Penrith, they go 4 in a row. Gordon, this hasn't been done since the Dragons team from many, many years ago, decades ago. It's arguably not supposed to happen.
No, not in the modern era, not under the salary cap system.
When we think back to the Roosters 18-19, you know, your Broncos team.
When they did 2 in a row, that was unbelievable.
Not been done for so long, and that team was celebrated, and we thought, like, well, we probably won't see a team go back to back because it is so difficult. The stars have to align in so many different ways, but it has done for Penrith. What do you make of what they've managed to achieve so far? Because it's not over.
It's certainly not over. I think it was 58 years since it's been done. You know, so for a side to do that, I think there's only eight or nine players that have played in all 4, which, you know, makes it even more special. But the way they played, the way it was 2 heavyweights, it was a great game of footy, and the way they can just control one of the biggest heavyweights, you know, the side that normally controls all the uncontrollables. You know, they got dominated in field position. I think it was about 60-something%, you know, and then just their little tactical plays and how they stick to it for 80 minutes and how they believe and they know what they're good at. I can't see anybody going past them next year. I actually can't. I think the Roosters are going to be, you know, like a little bit less, you know, with the players they lost. Melbourne Storm, well, they're going to be there, but, you know, it's just a juggernaut, isn't it? But then they are losing some players, but they've lost players they lose players every year.
And they're bringing some good players in as well.
And they bring some good players in.
Cheese, what did you make of what Penrith have managed to achieve? Obviously, you've got strong connections to the Melbourne club still, but Penrith, it's remarkable.
I think it's, you know, it's greatness. Like for the way I look at it, like I've been to, you know, I've won a GF, but I've never been back since. And like, I guess it's hard for people to understand like how hard it is just to make a grand final, and let alone make 5 in a row and win 4 of those. Like it's, as a player, you just have to envy it. But you got to appreciate how well they're coached. How well they do the little things right, and like it was an ugly game to watch. Like it was just the whole game was just an arm wrestle, and then I guess being the best defensive side for 5 years straight, it's always going to get you wins. When it comes down to it, the big games are won on defence, and they've been the best defensive side for the last 5 years, and you know they kept the Storm to 6 points with the best spine in the world. You know, everyone was talking about it, and it was just those little effort areas that won them the game. Like Liam Martin's try, that was nothing but like heart and hunger and wanting the ball more. He jumped over the best, you know, winger in the comp at high balls to get a, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous, and you just got to take your hat off to them at the end of the day. And I don't know if you know, it's going to be hard to see them not in the picture again, just with their defence. And obviously envy and jealousy is what I feel. And you know, at the end of my career, I'm gonna have to say to everyone, like, I lived through the Panthers dynasty. Like, like, and it puts a shadow on a lot of the other players in the competition. Like, no matter how great you were, you weren't the Penrith side. Like, it's just one of those things. So, take your hat off, but obviously very jealous.
Gordy, it was built up to be the battle of the 2 best teams in the competition. What did you make of the game itself?
I loved it. I you know, just 2 big guys. It was like chess with footy players. Like they all had to go. I think Melbourne Storm, Penrith, last week I think they had 6 or like under 10 offloads. They had 20, 21 or 22. So like just how they thought they were going to break it down and sort of go outside of what they normally do. And, you know, with the kicks, and everybody was talking about the wingers, you know, that, you know, Melbourne had an advantage. Well, they just let them catch the ball and tackle them. Well, mate, okay, you got an advantage in the air. So all these little...
That was an interesting tactic, that.
And it can go wrong, and it did well, they nearly scored a try. I think we'll get to that. But yeah, no, look, I really enjoyed it because sometimes, you know, when the two heavyweights go at each other and, you know, the game, but it probably was one for the purists. But I thought Melbourne, like, they're going to say that they weren't good enough, but I thought they tried their best.
Yeah, it was an intense game of football. Like from the opening exchanges, I think after maybe 4 sets, we saw the
ball in play.
The ball was in play for long periods. The level of intensity, the level of desperation from both teams was clear to see. It was a phenomenal feat for both teams to only have 4 tries scored in the whole game. It was incredible. Like
absolutely,
the way that those teams hung on in there and kept their chances alive was absolutely phenomenal.
And it was that great play that obviously Penrith did last week, and it got caught on obstruction, so they had a little bit of a variation of that. And as you said about Liam Martin, well, God, that bloke goes to every collision. He just goes to every collision. And that's saying something. So every kid out there, just go to the collision and go really hard at the collision and see what happens. Because if you looked at ability on a back row, and this is not disrespecting him, you'd go, oh, God, Kickout's got this and that. But Liam Martin matches it with everybody. We had Crichton that's had this unbelievable year. You know, I thought, you know, Liam, he just gets over his opponents every single week. He makes it personal, whether he's got the ball in his hands or he's, you know, going up for a high ball. And that's what Cheese said. He outjumped one of the best leapers in the game.
Well, the build-up with some build-up was on Liam Martin and the fallout between him and Munster, who could be Australian teammates in a couple of weeks' time. But for me, Liam Martin, yes, the try and then the try involvement to what basically sealed the game with the Alamotti try. But he was doing those effort areas all day. He was winning his team 20 metres of field position by sprinting down there on the kick chase to stop the Melbourne Storm and pinning Melbourne Storm in the corner. So as soon as Coates caught the ball, he landed on him and pinned him in the corner, which may not look like much, but it does so much to the field position, the flow of the game, everything that the Melbourne Storm were trying to do. They were pinned in their own end thanks to Liam Martin.
And there's nothing special about it. Every single player in the competition can do that.
Yeah, they can.
That's just an attitude thing, and it's sort of an all or nothing play as well. If you don't get your timing right on that hit, it can be a penalty. If you miss that tackle, because he's not waiting for anyone next to him to run with it. He's taking off and going, I'm making this tackle. I'm making this tackle whether you're with me or not. And if he misses that tackle, you'll probably give it away 10 extra yards of field position.
Because you'd leave a hole.
Yeah, because you leave a hole in the defensive line. But you know, he's been doing it all year. He's been doing it for multiple years in a row, and he had a hell of a game.
Yeah, the tactics from Penrith defensively on last play to allow the Melbourne Storm to take the first clean catch and then pounce and then go to tackle.
Coates and Rulbrick just to go up, you know, win the ball in the air, and they got numbers back. So that's what it was, right? So you just saw as soon as the ball went up, they just run around. They didn't try to compete for it. They just stood around them and just fishnetted them, you know, just sort of stayed around, tried to get it, stop the offload and number up, and they did it perfectly. You know, that's one thing. And I thought Penrith, because normally how they're so structured and they hit their lines and then they play off the back and they sweep and all that, but the amount of offloads, like, that surprised me, and they made a few mistakes.
It surprised me as well that they were allowed to get as many offloads as they did. Like Luai bouncing back into the field, obviously Isaiah Yeo, and then just finding that second phase.
And it was a game for the mentally tough guys, because you would have been out on your feet. You would have been, you know, questioning with Cleary or, you know, Munster coming at you late in the half or early in the half with footwork, and you just would have had to always be on your toes. And one of the, like, it's a beast of a game. You know what I mean? Like, and Penrith, and I can't believe the amount of belief that they have in each other just to keep on going, just to keep going. And then South was 2 points. I think Parramatta was 14. Brisbane was 2 points. And then last night, you know, it sort of did go down to the wire, but they were just too good again.
Just on that, like the war of attrition that was being played out at Accor Stadium, like Penrith, I think defensively, one play-off, which led to the Grant try, where Cleary just couldn't quite get back to marker. But then on the flip side, with Melbourne, they had 2. So I think they shouldn't have jammed on the try in the corner for Taruva. It was a play that I think they could see coming. I think they got to trust in the system, and they were in slide mode because Nick Meaney had released. Yeah, I think that was probably just a lack of concentration, lack of focus, or a bit of panic out there due to fatigue. And then the try just before half time, if you watch it back, you see the ball goes over to Jerome Luai. Jack Howarth, he stops. Munster keeps moving forward. Jack Howarth stops. And he's a young player, and he's thinking the ball's gone to the other side. Jerome Luai's going to kick the ball to the opposite corner. It's a play off. Bang. Back to Cleary. He then overreacts. He sprints forward, comes out of the line. He actually gets ahead of Munster, which then creates the space for Liam Martin to run into.
They fell asleep on that one play. They just had a nanosecond. I think, the ball's gone to the right.
It's just bang, you got.
And it turns back, and then you go,
what if it? Panic.
That's all.
We're breaking down the game here, but
even Truva's try, that was right in front of me. So I was sitting in a box, and I'm like, I was sitting in the seats with everybody else, with all the fans.
I was in a box too, good.
But it was like his deception. It's like he wasn't interested, so he sort of looked in field, and he sort of hid behind. And then when they all swooped out, it was just like I get all those little finer points of the game. Like when I was playing, I probably didn't, but now you watch it, you go, that's a bit of deception, and it's a winger, so we don't wrap wingers. And he only scored the try because he was marked by a winger, but it was a pretty good play. That's hard to defend.
Well, they scored off that play with Alamotti against the Sharks, where Cleary went to the line, fired the ball across. It was the same play, but this time there was a little bit of variation.
I think it was a kick the week before, then it was a play to Alamotti. So it's the same. It's the same setup, just with a few little plays. They got so many tricks. And, Nathan Cleary, and there's always that talk. I think they really missed Nelson. I think the lead up to it, Melbourne tried to shut it down, but Nelson, just such a big body. He might have knocked a couple over. You know what I mean? Because, I think they dominated the field position. I think Nelson, just with a couple of runs, maybe late offload, something like that, could have got Melbourne into the fight.
Yeah, well, with the level of fatigue, Gordy, I think you're 100% correct, because a guy like Nelson there, he can turn those half chances into full chances, or that level of desperation. It's different being, with all due respect, it's different being desperate on a Welsh or a Liero versus being desperate on Nelson.
Man, what's he like to try to handle?
Well, that's the thing I was going to say with Nelson. It's the offloads that would have damaged, I think, Penrith a little bit. I think, the boys kind of played kind of straight up and down, and the way Craig would like you to play is, ball position and don't give away the ball too easily. But with Nelson, I think he just disregards all of that, and the way he can just run through and damage a line and then be able to pop a beautiful offload off the back end of it, and then get some more meters. I think, he was massively missed, and it would have been interesting to see how he would have fatigued in that game, because what Penrith do is they constantly test your line out. They constantly test whether you're going to get up and make the effort areas, and if you're on the left-hand side and they go right, are you going to come up? And they constantly test and fatigue you throughout the game, and that's why they always come home strong in the last 20, because they've done the groundwork for the first 60 minutes of just putting your body under pressure, putting your body under fatigue, seeing if you want this game. And then in the last 20 minutes, that's when people start sleeping. That's it. And I felt like Melbourne kind of fell into the trap of trying to go toe-to-toe with them. I feel like they didn't...
But don't you have to?
Yeah, but you got to go toe-to-toe with them, but not at their own game. It was just one-off runs. Yep, there was not as many shifts the ball, and I feel like Penrith played more like Melbourne than Penrith do. They were having shifts out of yardage, getting the ball to the centres, and I felt like Melbourne sort of just were doing one-off carries, and with that spine, you need them to touch the ball a little bit more than they did, I reckon.
Yeah. What do you think's Craig Bellamy's reaction to those particular moments would be, in terms of the jam on an edge when they should have been in slide, and the Jack Howarth lack of concentration on play 5? Would he be filthy?
The lack of concentration one, I think, he'd be more upset about. Obviously, he's a big believer in effort areas, and the game's built on them. And especially in a grand final, you just can't have a nano sleep. And in a regular game, you can probably get away with it, but a grand final, it's something you can't. And obviously, a player going out of the system, like I think it was Will Warbrick.
Yeah.
I was in the box screaming, "Fuck! Why are you coming in there?"
Yeah.
I'm not a winger or a centre. I don't really know what they're doing out there, but
he definitely didn't need to jam.
yeah, obviously coming out of the system wouldn't have been ideal, but it's him sticking to a decision that he made, and it didn't come out that way. It's
Well,
not.
I think
It's
they
not
can
like
make that play. Yeah, I mean, like if you leave the line, right? If you come out, do you believe you can make the play?
yeah, exactly.
And the ball beats you.
That's why I don't think you'd be
Like you're
as
playing with
upset.
their hands.
Yeah, that's why I don't think you'd be as upset at that one, because it's like you made the decision. That's your footy brand, but obviously it wasn't the right one, and it hurt them.
And that'll come back to experience. But like then, that's always been like if you leave the system, you make the play.
Yeah.
Right?
Back yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like if you think you can shut it down, you get up and you watch them do it on so many occasions. Like players will sprint up, and I think Nathan Cleary broke the system last week, and then Reece Walsh, last year, and Reece got around him. So, you know, like them players do bite a bit, you know, and that's because of you know who's in front of them and the fatigue, or like who's outside them, and you don't know whether he's injured or they're talking. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Communication is the key, isn't it, Smithy?
Yeah, you got to lose the grand final to win one as well.
So they say.
Do you believe that?
Well, yeah. Well, I feel like
Why is that?
just the experience of it when you're a young fella. Like my first one was against the Roosters, and it went so fast. Like it felt like it felt like 5 minutes. You blink and it's over.
Yeah.
And then because I lost, you sort of learn the lessons of what you done wrong and what your team could have done better. And when you get to that level again, you sort of have that experience. And Penrith have had that experience. They've had that 5 years straight in the grand final. They know exactly what you need to do to win them. Like, have they ever scored 20 points in a grand final?
Yeah, against Brisbane.
Against Brisbane.
Didn't they?
Yeah. So that's the one game out of, 5?
And a para, and I think they scored 28 against
Oh,
Para.
did they?
Yeah, but you know, I mean, like, there's one thing, Jimmy, and we spoke about it yesterday, you know, is Jerome Hughes. Like, what an amazing year. Like, what an amazing year, right?
Yeah.
And people are saying, oh, he didn't perform well. He did, but they weren't allowed to. Their forwards got dominated. But he won the Dalian, which was amazing, and it was emotional. And, like, I saw the haka, and I just saw his face, and that's a big moment for, like, a young kid that moved around at a few clubs. But then the next morning I turned on the TV, and he's doing a Channel 9 interview at 7-something in the morning. I'm like, man, you needed to, like me, like this is me, I'm thinking your media manager needed you to sleep in and say, mate, he can do it at 10 o'clock or he can do it at whatever, but he's not up at 7 o'clock in the morning putting on a Melbourne Storm shirt and standing in front of the media. Like, you got his speech last night. Play that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, mate, we can give him to you after lunch, but, like, and, you know what I mean? Like, there's little things that...
little details.
Yeah, and then they're the experience. Because I remember my first grand final, right? This is no joke. Tina Turner played, right? And then you just heard this commotion at the old footy stadium, and the door opened, and I looked like, I'm like, man, that's Tina Turner. No, I did.
Yeah.
Right? So I wasn't ready for the moment. Like now. So then every other big game, I didn't go outside. Like, I'd walk in, you know, people go walk out, and I sit in the dressing room. Don't even think of what's out there. Like, you know what I mean? Because you can get distracted whether you see your mum and your dad, and it's emotional, and you're sitting there, and it's a Origin or whatever it is, or like it's a grand final, and you see, and like, no, come back in. Your emotions got to be at 8:05 or 7:30 or 3 o'clock, and that's the experience I got out of big games. But you know, I was distracted my first ever.
My first one, I was exactly the same, Gordy. I went to the hotel where my parents were staying on the game day. I went to the hotel where my parents were staying. They were living in New Zealand at the time. I hadn't seen them in a while. And I just sat with them for about 4 to 5 hours, you know, talking, giving them tickets, and it was a bit emotional. Yeah. And that was the day of the grand final, and I feel like it exerted a bit of energy. Yeah, it does. Like, getting emotional and talking about this and like sitting down, whereas usually I'd be in bed watching TV or sleeping before a game. And, you know, when the next one I played, I was fully locked in. I went straight to bed, like the whole day, just stayed in the darkness, didn't want to get the body moving. I'd get up and stretch every now and then, make sure the water's on top, but just take all those little things that...
So that's the losing one. Yeah. So that's the... And it's not... And then maybe you don't even have to lose one. It's how you play. But when the result goes against you, it just gets highlighted, right? Yeah. There's a big spotlight on you, but big
learning curve for the Melbourne Storm, especially for some of their younger players, and obviously the talk in the build up to the game was this was going to be the first one coming out of the shadows of the big three. Tactically from Melbourne, Cheese, you said there about their game plan being more of a Penrith style, and unlike Melbourne, for me, they really struggled to get Pappenhausen into any sort of field position or any opportunities. He's worked so well with his back rowers this season, with Bloor and Katoa, and little variations. I can't recall at any point during the game yesterday seeing Pappenhausen with one of those edge back rowers with a little bit of variation.
It was always traffic.
Yeah, it seemed like Munster was really wanting to take control going after the game, but they just didn't get Pappenhausen, who's an absolute weapon, into the game. And mate, it's interesting what you say about the tactics of Melbourne. I looked at the stats and I was shocked by this. Nathan Cleary, 31 tackles versus Jerome Luai, 8. For me, that begs the question, did they focus too much on going after Nathan Cleary and going to that side, especially when Brian Toto went off and there was that reshuffle? Like, did they fail to capitalise on that opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I was saying that too before, but I think when Paul Alamoti went to the wing, they should have really tested out the strength of his defensive. I guess now at wing, because it's a completely different position, as you know, like centre and wing, and I mean it's a different pairing as well. Like, they obviously wouldn't have played together like that for a while, and I feel like the spine of the Storm didn't touch the ball enough together. Yeah. I feel like it was either Munster got the ball and Munster was directing traffic, or Jerome got the ball, Jerome was directing traffic. It was never like the three coming together like we've seen all year. And the Pappenhausen trick plays that he was doing on the Roosters, where he did that little flick pass, like that was non-existent. And I know it's because Penrith's defence was just so good, but for me, I didn't see enough from the spine that I had seen all year, and obviously it was very disappointing because they're all my close mates. But I don't know.
Well, how do you beat Penrith then?
I don't know. I haven't beat them in a while, Geordie.
Yeah, but you got to learn to play off the back foot, and it's very hard to do like that because. Like, as you said, Luai, reverse play to Martin. Mate, when the good players link and they can get into position, and Cleary last week, I think there was a play and he races back to get into position. It's just, mate, you got to be very,
the thing about Penrith, they
hard to beat.
The way they play the bad teams is the way they play the good teams, and it doesn't change. Just exactly what Penrith's game plan is, and then on the back of it, they can start doing. Like offloads and stuff like that. But the whole foundation of it, and they just do it week in, week out. So they're just so conditioned to that sort of style of play. And then when you try to, I guess, do the exact same style of play, you're trying to beat someone at their own game.
But don't forget, mate, that happened to Melbourne, right? Yeah. So everybody watches the footage of who? Penrith, right? Because that's who you got to beat, right? So you watch, so then you start mirroring they're good at this and do that. And that's what happened with Melbourne. And then the greatest thing about my era is everybody played their own style. Yeah. Right. And that's the thing you cannot fall into. You can't beat Melbourne being Melbourne.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I used to say that. You're not beating Cameron Smith trying to beat Cameron Smith. No. Right. You just don't beat, because there's only one of one. Like, you can't beat Cheese being Cheese, right? You got to beat them being yourself. And that's the challenge, because they're so good, and you feel like, that's what we got to do, but you don't. You got to be good at what you.
And Melbourne's style, I think most people were predicting that this could trouble Penrith. If Melbourne played their best, which I don't think they did, in terms of getting those 3 or 4 players all touching the ball in the same period, or the same ruck. So play the ball happens. Grant to Hughes to Munster to Pappenhausen, even him coming up against Pappenhausen coming back into the ruck, or playing with Katoa on that edge like we've seen them do all year. Like, I was so surprised that we just didn't see more of that, because they did have periods where they had the ball in decent field position and they were attacking the Penrith line, but it just looked Opportunities were very limited, but Melbourne didn't seem to have that. I don't know, like, did they just get lost in the moment and the chaos of it, Cheese, do you reckon, with not being able to find one another? Because they seem to do it with relative ease, usually in a regular season game.
Yeah, I think it was a big moment for a lot of the guys at Melbourne. Like, other than the big, like the spine and stuff, there is not that much experience, like let alone grand final experience. Like there's not a lot of NRL experience. You've got Alec McDonald, Josh King, Trent Liero, Tyron Wishart, Jack Howarth, Nick Meaney. Those are all people that haven't been to a grand final before and haven't experienced in that. Whereas at Penrith, they've got a lot.
They got 8.
Yeah.
8 that have played in all 4.
Yeah,
Eight or 9.
8 that have played in nearly 5 grand finals.
Yeah, 5.
Yeah.
And then that's without Test footy and Origin as well. So there's a lot of big game experience.
Yeah.
But I think when Penrith sit down in 15 years' time, they'll say they're the best defensive. Everybody talks about their attack, but like defense is 50% of the game. That's if you hold it and you go through your set. So it can be more, and they're the best side of that. Like their line speed from Mitch Kenny and, as you said, Martin, and all those effort areas, they beat you, and that's not skill.
Yeah.
So their ability just to be prepared to go harder than you, longer than you, and you can't play.
I reckon if this game was to be replayed this weekend, Bellamy would be getting into his spine saying, you guys have got to pass the ball to one another. I reckon, we saw footage of him shattered. He fronts up and does the press conference and spoke glowingly about Penrith. But I reckon deep down he'd be saying, "What again?"
He's got to be commended because he didn't even complain about that no try.
Exactly. He
said it's ours. We didn't control what we couldn't control and all that stuff. And Penrith are outstanding.
They worked hard and they had a couple of, and it is. But I reckon he'd be going, lads, you 4 are our strength here. In terms of the spine, the 1, 6, 7, 9, you guys, this is where we had it potentially over Penrith. We know about the inexperience here. We know about no Nelson. You guys have got to pass the ball to one another. I reckon that would be a regret of the whole Storm organisation. And if they were to play again this week, he would be saying, guys, you've got to link with one another.
Yeah, I agree.
You're doing good football. I agree. Mate, you didn't play, okay? It's okay.
No, I agree with you. But I'm gutted. I was just thinking about Jack Howarth, and I used to live with him. And I feel upset for him because he didn't have the best game. I think he lost a couple of balls, got one stripped off him, and a disallowed try. And Jesus.
It comes down to the little moments which become big moments. Anyway, we'll get on to our Hyundai hybrid heroes. Ever thought about going hybrid? Now you can. Check out the hybrid SUV range by Hyundai today. So, Gordon, what we do is we pick a player that was in a multitude of areas like the hybrid cars do that perform. So I'm going to go with Paul Alamotti because he played in the centres, started there, moved on to the wing, showed versatility in both areas of the game. The finish from him off the brilliant pass from Moses Leota was sensational. Then he caught that ball right at the end, and then the flood of emotion came. So he's my Hyundai hybrid hero this week. Cheese, how about you?
We did have that debacle about me picking Ruben Cotter over Isaiah Yeo, but I thought Isaiah Yeo I thought he should have got Clive Churchill, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, I thought, like Liam Martin obviously had moments in those big moments, but Isaiah Yeo had carries that were like 15, 20 metres. He had about 10 of them when Penrith were, on the back foot. And I just thought he was unbelievable in the game. Like I couldn't believe how hard he was to handle for the Storm and how much metres he ran in a grand final. I thought he led by example as a captain.
45 tackles as well.
45 tackles, yeah.
Not bad.
Well, I got to go Liam Martin. Right?
Yeah.
And because I like the car so much, I'd buy 2. and there'd be, just a little side hustle with, I think Harry Grant in a losing side was unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
And then, they didn't have the go forward that they did, but I think the way he tried to create and get Melbourne and his defensive efforts were unbelievable. But Liam Martin, I think it's it's the greatest lesson for all young kids out there because he got man of the match with so much talent. And if you just boil down to talent, he wouldn't be in probably the top 5. And that's no disrespect to him.
But you know what?
Players, he's in the top 5, but just, you know what I mean, like just natural born with the kick, the pass, and all that skill level and size. But he goes to the collision and he wants to win it, and that's the guy that you want to play with. That's your favourite player that you ever play with because you just know he's squeezing so much out of the orange.
Well, good. You know what though? Like the ability to take that catch over Coates and then find a pass, like.
And then find a pass to Moses Leota of all people.
Like, what's he doing there? Well, you know, like, try and catch that ball because it's coming from the wrong way as well. Like,
man, I don't think he knew that he caught it until he'd seen it in his hands,
and not fumble it as well. Like,
I reckon Penrith turn off their GPS because they turn up in all the wrong places.
Yeah, they do.
Seriously, like, what's wrong? Like it just doesn't work.
Yeah, like Moses Leota down on that
mate,
kick.
I'm lost. Like,
and he finds himself in that situation a lot. Moses Leota. That's where he scores most of his tries.
He does like it. I reckon he's a bit of a closet sneaky. I love a try. Like we love that he's at front row, but I reckon he's got ambitions to play on the wing or something because he's always turning off. Like he is brilliant. That is all thanks to Hyundai. Ever thought about going hybrid? Now you can. Check out the hybrid SUV range today by Hyundai. We've got to get into a couple of the controversies. The Jack Howarth no try would have been a big moment, would have sealed the scores at 10-all with kick to come.
Yep. And I think it was probably pretty much
Meany's pretty automatic from
like where it would have been, but there's no guarantee. But let's say it's 10-all. It's a
12-10.
It's just a totally different script, and then they get a penalty in the second half. And I heard Craig Bellamy talk about it. They took the tap, and then then there's all those little script parts that like changed. I'm glad Melbourne didn't whinge. I'm glad Craig didn't carry on about it.
He's never been that
to me
type
live.
of guy.
You know, with the big screen, it's an amazing big screen, but you couldn't quite tell. Then my social media lit up, and to me, that's the better pixel. That's a try. And I think in all the commentary, what did you say in commentary?
For me, it appeared as though there was the white of the ball touching the green of the grass. That was my observation. Now, the NRL have come out and said, look, we've got this angle that the bunker was shown that shows that it was a no try. But I would argue that if there's any angle that shows that there's white on ball on green of grass, then that overrules the angle where you say it's not where you don't see it. I thought Melbourne were unlucky not to have that try.
Well, it's pretty much like your house. If you got cameras, the one that looks at your driveway doesn't get someone coming in your backyard. So you look at all the pictures, and the picture of the ball touching the ground, to me, is evidence that the ball, like I can, and this is my theory on it, is you cannot tell me a blade of grass didn't touch the ball.
I think when it goes up a no try, the thorough investigation goes out the window, and it's like as soon as you can see that it might not be a try, it's straight no try. I think that sort of needs a bit of revamping that no try system.
It was always going to be difficult to overturn, but I thought there was evidence there, enough evidence to reward that try.
And I'm glad there wasn't 2 points in it.
Yeah, I'm the same as you as well, Gordy. At the game at the time, I couldn't see anything real. I was like,
gee whiz. And then normally the bunker, because they get the best pictures, right? So then we're going against the picture there and a social, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you got every angle and you got the technology that they have, normally you think that they wouldn't get that wrong.
Yeah. It was brilliant by Penrith to get as many numbers in the picture. Round 24, when they played against each other, they conceded 2 tries from kicks where it was back into a support player. There was a lack of agency going around 24 for Penrith to get around that second ball. This time, there was so much agency for the players to get around that second ball. Coach, how on earth he got that ball and back into the field of play? That was a brilliant play. Jack Howarth burrows for the ground. Look, I think the sheer numbers in the picture made the decision for Klein to send it up as a no try because it was just carnage there.
There you go.
And those are the little things when we'd argue it's a 50-50. Some people say, oh, look, there's evidence here that it's a try. Some people say, oh, there's no, we'll back the bunker. But
that's where the saying is, you make your own luck.
Yeah, well
that's where that comes from. Because they all made their own luck.
The reason it's not a try today or yesterday was because Penrith had players there.
Yeah, you make your own luck.
Yeah. Look, obviously, it's very difficult to make those decisions. I think whether or not we move to a sort of Hawkeye system that could see...
You would have to see all the angles, right? And you think, I don't know what the bunker's worth, but it's supposed to be millions of dollars. You would think they would have the zoom in where they can go and the picture stays clear and they can have it within a nanosecond of what's happening and they have a clearer picture. To me, right, I'm thinking in hindsight, but I'm not a touch judge. The ball goes up, gets tapped in, why don't you run in?
Yeah.
Why don't you run in behind and have a look at the angle where the referee, because then you've got the eye and you go, mate, I saw it touch the grass or whatever.
Yeah. Or could we use the similar technology like in cricket, where they, the LBW and they make the predictions on where the ball would go? Could you not move that into like a rugby league scenario and you could see, the ball did touch the grass?
Mate, do they put something in the ball?
Yeah, but that's to see if the ball crosses the line as opposed to touches.
But then it should be some sort of pressure. You know what I mean? So like then it would have the pressure here, but it could have a little bit of pressure there.
You'd need a smart field, which is doable. It's doable to have an intelligent field that could
just
say...
Just in goal. Just smart in goal.
Yeah, just smart, like the ball touched the grass.
Yeah, it would be able to tell you.
That's nice. You wouldn't need a smart field. You just need a smart in goal.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah.
Price reduction.
Yeah.
I
like it, cheese, yeah. Cost cutting already on the technology. But
you can buy it at Costco. New sponsor, by the way. Thank you, Costco.
But look, I think it's fair to say that the best team won.
Yes.
So this, I guess this controversial moment is not going to take away from the fact that I think most people watching the game feel as though the best team won, and who knows what would have happened after that. It was interesting, Gordy, you said there about the Bellamy speaking so openly about not taking the 2 when they were 8 points down. I found that quite shocking that he was as open and upfront as that.
No, he said, look, he wasn't either way. He wasn't one way or the other, but now in hindsight, if we would have had more time in the players, I would have got the signal, hey, guys, take the 2, let's go reset. But they didn't. And he has, and then that's a tip. And then what he said, it's a typical Wayne Bennett. You will back the players on the field because they're the ones out there and they sense, like they feel the momentum, whether it's going forward. And, at the time, because I played with Alan Langer, we never took the 2.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But we always made it work. There wasn't like, oh, we should have done that. Yeah. So, mate, if we take the tap, that's our. Like he's our leader. That's our decision. That's not. Oh, I would. And then you don't sit there and go that. You go, no, Alf takes the tap.
Yeah. Well, it was a couple of sets in a row. So, I guess now thinking fatigue would have been in the Penrith line.
Just the way Penrith were defending, were Melbourne ever because at 8 points down, you need to score twice.
Yeah, but what about their theory is, and then when you look at the stats, we got dominated in territory. We're down here.
Yeah.
We're down here. We if they kick off to us, and then we're getting back in. It took us so long to break and get the momentum and to start attacking their line. So, that's what I'm saying, and it's what they feel. And there's enough experience out there, and they went for the tap. Just make it work.
Another controversial moment. I was getting hot sweats in the commentary box when Cam Munster and Paul Alamotti.
I heard you were cheering. Yes. Yes.
No, to be fair, Dan Ganani, he brought it up within inside a couple of minutes, so he was very quick on the draw there. At this time of recording, no charge on Cameron Munster. What did
probably
we make
shouldn't
of it?
be. I put it in the Jack Whiten and Tyson Gamble when he pulls against your mouth really hard. If you pull your arm against someone's mouth and you go, oh, he bit me, you don't know where the pressure's coming from. Like if I pulled my arm in my mouth, I'm going to get teeth marks. Guarantee you. So I'm glad that it went away because it didn't look like
exactly. It didn't look anything like the Crichton one this year. The Stephen Crichton one with
when he nearly lost his nose.
Yeah, we nearly lost. It looked,
But it didn't happen.
yeah, it looked nothing like that. You know how there was that little bite down. With this one was just But it's unfortunate because it's a penalty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Wasn't it?
No, it was just on report. There was no penalty.
I think it was a penalty.
Melbourne received the ball and Ashley Klein stopped play. And Cam Munster was kind enough to speak to Triple M after the game, and he said he spoke to Ash and he's like, "Look, I've got to put it on report." But there was no.
I thought it was a penalty at the time.
No, Melbourne.
Well, that's all right. Then.
Melbourne kept possession.
Yeah. And then Cameron came and said, "I got my hand on my heart," and then Whitey goes, "Well, I felt a bite." And then when you look at it, either way, if you're a Penrith fan, you go, "Oh, well, there's no doubt." But I go, if you're putting pressure on my mouth.
Yeah, Alamotti's arm was in the grill.
Yes.
Was in the grill.
It was well done.
The future of both these teams. So we'll look Penrith Panthers 4 in a row. Fisher Harris is leaving. I think that has caught everybody at the club by surprise. Luai and Taruva go on to Wests. But they gain Papali'i, who we know what he can do. And they get Blaise Talangi. I've got a bit of a theory that I don't know if Penrith having these players move on is such a bad thing, because I think it forces them to reinvent themselves. You know, think about the great coaches, like they're constantly tinkering with their team. So in like a Sir Alex Ferguson, he used to say, we cannot allow a team to grow old together. So you have to have some you always have to bring in 2 new players. He had this nucleus of the squad, and every year he'd bring in 2 new players, and it'd just freshen everybody up. You'd want to impress the new players. The new players would want to impress you. You know, and it changes your style. So we're talking here about how Penrith play, but they will tweak how they play next.
I don't think you're changing Luai and Fisher Harris by choice. You know, like your wingers, you'll go or a centre, or like one of the back rowers.
Yeah, that's what I think is they're actually losing a bit of their nucleus. Like they're losing Luai, they're losing Fisher Harris, who's arguably their leader of the pack. And actually, I would say Yo would be their leader.
100%, but then a new guy comes in, even someone like a Liam Henry or a Lindsay Smith, they get more responsibility, and then a Blaise Talangi comes in, and you'd think...
You can't
logically speaking, you want to keep the best players, but then there's just something different about this.
They were limping into the finals and got the job done. They were limping. That's why I went Melbourne, because I'm thinking Penrith haven't really been that dominant force that they were in recent years. I think every grand final they were red hot favourites. This time it was like, man, they've limped. Cleary's missed games. Like Dylan Edwards, like he was limping around. Like it was like, we don't know whether he was going to be playing for his country or not. You know, and there was blokes in and out, and look what happens. They just looked like they just seemed to rise. And then, like they will fill it, but I'm not too sure. But they got Nathan Cleary; they can just do whatever he wants, and then Yo will come back as the first receiver, and Nathan will play as just a little bit wider.
I think they'll be. I think they are the favourites for next year, or at least second favourites. So
if they're not the favourites, I don't know why.
Well, Melbourne Storm, 2025. Obviously, Nelson will be back. Big signing in Stefano Utoikamanu. They identified the middle as an area for recruitment to improve them in. They landed one of the best young forwards with potential, I think, in Stefano. Goes from the Tigers into the Melbourne Storm system. We've seen a recent example of that for him. Blore, who went from the Tigers to the Melbourne Storm, and what a difference it's made for him. Surely the Storm would be... I think, I said about Bellamy in the dressing room. If you're in that dressing room, you come back to pre-season in 6 to 8 weeks' time, you're feeling that you've got now that experience of getting to a grand final. You feel like you're ready to attack this season.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that they're going to be stronger. Said like if Big Nelson plays and Big Stefano, I'm not 100% sold on Stefano as but he's a big guy. He's going to go into a great system, anybody Craig's put their hands on, I guarantee they come back a better player. Or do you know what? You find out whether you want to pay the price to become a better player or not. You know what I mean? So like it's either you
true.
go there and you're going to find out what's inside you.
Yeah.
And then hopefully the young kid has it, and then, you know, well, it's sort of mouthwatering, isn't it? Because, you know, the talk for the next 12 months is going to be, Penrith, can they do it again?
I think they can. Obviously, Melbourne.
Jeez, you're supposed to say the Roosters.
Yeah, I think they can do it again if we don't play to our potential. But I'm not going to ever again am I going to doubt them.
No, that's
you know what I mean.
That's sort of something because it was an intercept against South and Reynolds missed the kick, and then Parramatta, they were really good the year before, and then they sort of didn't make it. Penrith beat them in Mackay in the semi-final. Then you go Brisbane pretty much Melbourne. They couldn't get off their try line for the first half, and then they had the game won.
Maybe the
the
best opportunity for another team is like Isaiah getting an injury because he's been fit. He's been fit now. For
not everyone in the comments.
He's played the most games.
He's played.
Please, Isaiah, go down.
He's got a boot. Seriously. Like I know Nathan gets a lot of credit, but for me,
you Liverpool boys.
Isaiah Yeo is if you're going to stop Penrith, I think you need to stop Isaiah Yeo before you even get to Nathan. And I think we've seen
that's all we got to do to beat him. We got to
stop Isaiah Yeo.
Break Isaiah Yeo's ankle and
the 6'5" guy that just can pass, he can run, he can stand in tackles, he runs over you. And he makes 230 metres.
Plays 80 minutes.
Yeah, and only makes 230 metres and 45 tackles.
He's a great leader.
Yeah.
He's absolutely phenomenal what he's done for that. But anyway, gents, we'll wrap this up. Gordon, are you going to the reunion?
Not sure. Got a busy day, so our last 360. So pretty much I got one more hour work to do for the year. So don't you laugh.
And then let me guess, this sound will be made.
I got it. No, just kids. Family. Do you know what? It's been a bit of a drain. Like 3 days in Sydney every week. It's, for 30 weeks. It can, it can put a toll on the family life. So go home and, talk to the kids and become a dad.
Nice. Cheese, we'll be seeing you for the next couple of weeks.
Hey, good luck, Cheese, mate. So are you ready for round one?
No. I'm back like June, July.
Wow. So the technology hasn't got better, mate. They've been playing it in and just
no. Still 9 months from I think 2 weeks ago. So
how are you going to keep the weight down?
Well, I don't really. I've lost heaps of weight at the moment, but obviously I'm going to be around here training and stuff. So hopefully that'll help. But
well, good luck.
Thank you very much, Gordy.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. I haven't seen too much
of you lately, actually.
Yeah, I know.
Well, thanks for joining us, Gorden Tallis Brandon Smith. Also, viewers, listeners, the Rugby League Roundtable Season 2, Episode 1 is dropping this Thursday morning on all podcast platforms and YouTube. Make sure you check it out, and we'll catch you soon.